What's up, guys? My name is Dominique if you're new here, but you can call me Dom. I get asked a lot about people wanting to hear our backstory into how we got here. We are on 2.6 acres here in coastal South Carolina. It is me, my husband, and my 4 children. We have a 15-year-old son. He'll be 16 in August. Then we have our daughter. His name is Aiden. Our daughter's name is Anaya. She is 10. She's going to be 11 in June. Then we have Nehemiah, who's 8. And then Niall, who is actually she's about to be 5 in a couple days. So we have 4 children. We have 5 dogs. We have 5 cats, maybe. Yeah, 5 cats. We have lots of rabbits now. Goats, chickens, ducks, turkey, fish, hamster, just about everything. We have meat chickens in our garage right now. But the question that people are asking me is they want to know my backstory. Was I raised this way? How did I get here if I wasn't? So a little bit about myself. Me and my husband both are 34 years old. We'll be 35 this year. And I was not raised this way. I was not raised wanting to homestead. I didn't even know what homesteading was. I didn't know anything about raising animals. I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, specifically the projects. So I lived in New York for about 21 years before moving to North Carolina. My husband is actually from New Orleans. He lived there until Hurricane Katrina, and then they were displaced to Texas and then to North Carolina, because he was a senior in high school, so he eventually lived in North Carolina to go to college, which is where I met him. We both were not raised knowing anything about where our food comes from or anything like that. Like I said, I was from the projects, and we rarely ate fresh fruits and vegetables. I remember my grandma saying, I was raised by my grandmother, and I remember her specifically saying that fresh fruit was way more expensive. And it's not like I wanted to eat fresh fruit all the time, but if we did, we definitely knew it was more expensive than to eat junk food that wouldn't fill you. The fresh fruit wouldn't fill you, but the junk food would, and it was cheaper. And so I grew up that way, just eating whatever. It wasn't until I moved to South Carolina. So me and my husband met in North Carolina, got married, moved to South Carolina, which is where I met my friend, and she at the time was already eating organic and stuff, and I didn't even know how to cook. I never thought that I could just follow recipes and learn how to cook. I was never taught how to cook. I remember thinking that boxed cake that was from scratch. Like, I remember someone asking me, did I know how to make cake from scratch? And I was like, yeah, I know how to make cake from scratch, because my grandmother taught me how to make cake from scratch, not from scratch, from the box. And she told me, like, oh, you just substitute milk for water, and you substitute the margarine or whatever, or the oil for butter. And everyone loved her cakes growing up. Like, they would always come to the house like, oh, we make this box cake and it doesn't turn out like this, but your grandma makes it so delicious. So I grew up thinking box cake was cooking from scratch, and had a rude awakening when I was 20 something years old, and I'm talking to other moms, and I'm like, yeah, I know how to cook cake from scratch. And they're like, oh wow, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, you just get the box. Like, and so I was definitely not anywhere near, I didn't know how to cook. I remember my son, he was about maybe 3, and he told my boss at the time that I burnt baked macaroni or boxed macaroni and cheese. Like, the only thing that I used to make when my husband and I got married, he was actually, oh, my dog is barking. Anyway, he was actually the cook. He knew how to cook. Like I said, he was from New Orleans, and he would cook for us, because if it was left to me, the only thing I would make was a can of corn with butter, because that was the only vegetable that I would eat growing up. My grandmother would either cook corn or green peas, which I hated. Those were like the 2 vegetables. Yes? Hold on. Anyway, so yes, the vegetables we used to eat was peas, which I hated, and I still actually don't eat peas, and corn. And so when it was time for me to cook, The only thing I was make is canned corn, add some salt, some butter, and then take chicken wings and like the little winglets and put some salt and pepper on them, throw them in the oven. I didn't like to fry anything because I would always get popped and burned, and so I would have baked chicken, corn, and a box Velveeta macaroni and cheese. And not all the time would that even turn out right, because I would get like the noodles sometimes would be hard, and so I was a hot mess. So I began learning about organic and about chemicals, and I think the first thing that I watched, like Food Be Thy Medicine, I watched like Food Inc. So I began watching these documentaries, and I'm like, wow, like I had no idea like these things was poisoning us, or like not good for our body, or that, you know, eating healthy had anything to do with how we felt or lived or anything like that. At the time, my son, he would have come to find out he was having problems. I was having problems as well, so I got him a food allergy test, and I did know when he was a baby he had an allergy to dairy milk, so he would get really, really bad, like so like the infant formula, he would get really bad diarrhea and stuff like that. But it didn't even occur to me, you know, to try and figure out a different way. Like I just thought like you feed your baby formula, and you know, if they, you know, are doing diarrhea, like it was just normal. Like I just thought things were normal until I began, you know, watching these documentaries and learning about these things, and got him the allergy test, and come to find out he, you know, had these intolerances, and he also was having some behavior issues. And when we cut out those things, because he also had a sensitivity to red 5, which is a food coloring that is in a lot of things that aren't even necessarily red. I think the other one was yellow, and he was having a lot of behavior issues. And once we took specifically out red number 5 and yellow, like the artificial food coloring, his behavior was like night and day. It like completely changed, and that is when I started seeing like wow, like how it could really affect you. And then for my own self, I would get like really bad headaches a lot, and then when I tried to like do like stop eating, you know, gluten or corn, and like different, I tried all these different diets. So I've tried vegan, vegetarian, gluten free, dairy free, all at the same time, sugar free. I've tried just every kind of diet you can think of, I've tried. And it was all because I knew that, so every time I would cut out gluten and corn, I was doing an elimination diet, and then I would add those things back in, I got really, really bad headaches, specifically corn, to the point that I was scared to. And the headaches, like nothing would take, like help it. No ibuprofen, no Tylenol, no both at the same time. And it got to the point where I was just so nervous to eat anything with corn, because I mean, as soon as I would eat it, it would like give me a migraine so bad. And so we went through all that process of trying to like heal our gut, and doing like the drinking broth and all of those things. At the same time, I was, you know, turned our whole backyard into a garden, but I still, like, I didn't know what that meant. Like, I knew that I wanted to garden because we didn't have enough money for organic produce all the time, and so I was following like the clean 15, or yeah, the clean 15 and the dirty dozen, and like trying to stay away from the dirty dozen, or buying those things in organic. If you're not familiar with the clean 15 and the dirty dozen, it's a list that comes out every year, which is the 12 highly sprayed fresh fruit and vegetables that you should stay away from, and or like buy organic. And then like the clean 15, which are the ones that you can buy not organic, and they are the least sprayed fresh fruit vegetable. And so I was trying to follow that, because like I said, we didn't have money. I started a garden in our backyard and started growing this produce, and quickly realized that I had a fear of eating produce that I grew. Like, I grew so many watermelons. One, I didn't even know that watermelons, like, it was a shock to me when I grew many watermelons, and I was giving them away because I opened them and they were full of seeds, and I'm like, how does the store get seedless watermelons? And we have watermelons full with every bite of seed. And so then another thing was like with lettuce, I would love salads. My kids love salads, and I grew a whole bed. It was like 3 by 6 foot bed of lettuce, and it looked beautiful. It was all different colors. And then when it was time to like come in and wash that, it's like I could not, like, there were so many bugs on the lettuce that I couldn't even wash it enough to get the bugs out. And then it would like freak me out, because now I'm like, oh, I'm eating bugs if I didn't wash it good enough. And it was just a learning curve that I didn't even know. I just went out there like knowing like I want to have a garden so that I can grow organic produce, and I was doing it, but then it came time that I had to actually eat those things, and I was like, had to get over, and so I ended up giving away a lot of produce. My friend would be like, why are you gardening if you're just giving it all away? And I'm like, that's a good question. Like, I didn't think about this all the way when you buy lettuce from the store that's triple washed and it doesn't come with any bugs. And then now I'm out here gardening and, and we have bugs everywhere. And bugs and, rodents freak me out, because like I said, I was raised in New York in the projects, just New York City, in general was I worked in places that was infested with rats that they tried to poison to like blow up, and the rats got immune to the poison and just turned into like baby kittens, like they were like size of rats. And so I've always been scared of like any creepy crawly type thing, roaches, just like we down south we call them palmetto bugs, but in New York we call them cockroaches. And I've always been scared of them. Like, they're freaky. Like, I remember would stay up at night if like a mouse got in our house, and like just scream. I had school the next day, and my grandma would be so mad at me, and I would be screaming if I saw a cockroach, a roach, or a mouse, and it was in my room. Like, I would not sleep that whole night and go to school the next day falling asleep. Like, and so I know you guys see me, and a lot of see me now, and I've been videoing, as you guys, some of you guys think it's funny when I am jumping at the tomato hornworm or asking my kids to get it out. But like, I would say, and then like I've had another friend say that, her husband asked, if I am not like a big animal fan, why do I have all these animals? And it's like, I don't have all these animals because I love pets. Like, I was terrorized as a kid by my aunt's black cat. And then we had like these superstitions that all black cats were like evil and all these things. And so I remember getting like, even before moving here and while moving here, I'm like, I don't want any cats. I think they're creepy. They're mean. Like, the cat, my aunt's cat, I would like walk by. I was a kid, and I would walk by the bed, and it would jump out and like claw my feet, bite my feet. I had my grandma's boyfriend at the time, he lived with us, and his dog bit me, even though it was by mistake, but I still have like this marking here. And so like, I was scared of all animals and anything that was alive that wasn't a human, I was scared of. And so I didn't I had this thing that I wanted to homestead. And so I'm sorry if this is all over the place, but so we're wanting to grow our own things, but then I'm having to get over that it comes with bugs, and that it comes with dirt and all these things. And then we decide we want acres. I'm like, I want acres. Like, I really do want to farm and have animals and know where our food comes from, and have the space for our kids to go wild and just build I was saying a farm because I didn't even know the term homestead at the time. And so this was back, we sold our house in August of 2019. We didn't even have we put all of our stuff in storage. And then after we sold our house, so we were living in a tent. So we tent camped. We made it seem like it was fun. So we tent camped for a week while we looked for a vehicle to tow our RV, and we bought an RV after we sold our house. So we were kind of homeless for like a week, staying in the campground, tent camping as like a vacation. But the Lord was so gracious. We found a RV right away after we sold our house, found a vehicle, and was able to tow was able to tow, my dog's probably gonna start barking, our trailer or our RV. We got one with a bunkhouse because we have 4 kids, and so our plan was to travel out to the west and all these things, and then come back and and find land somewhere. It didn't specifically have to be in South Carolina, which obviously all that did not turn out like it like we were thinking, because then COVID happened and we ended up staying in Kentucky for about 9 months, and then we moved back here and COVID was still happening. And at the time, my husband, before we sold our last house, he was beginning to be self-employed, doing taxes and bookkeeping and accounting type stuff. And so with COVID happening, we found out the rules had changed, because we looked it up before we sold our house, and it said, like, you only needed to be self-employed for a certain amount of time. I don't remember exactly what the stipulations was, but then when it was time for us to wanting to get into a house 2 years later, they were like, oh, the rules change. You need a actual salary job, or you have to be self-employed for like a certain amount of years, and he wasn't. And so I began to feel hopeless, thinking that we were never going to get acres. At first I was thinking like 5 acres. My husband wanted like many acres, probably like 15 or something. And I was just like, but then it was taking so long, I was like, I'll be content with 1 acre. I'm like, can we just get 1 acre? Because it just felt like we weren't, like, we were staying in our RV, and I just felt sick. Like, I felt so sick that I'm like, I felt like the Lord wanted me to do this thing, and then now we're stuck in an RV for 2 years, like way longer than we anticipated. It's during COVID. It's getting windy again. So I began to question, like, I'm like, Lord, like, did you really, say that I was going to have a homestead? Did you really, say that this was possible? Like, I don't understand what's happening. We can't find a house because of all of these new rules. And then we were going to close on one house, and the day that we were going to close, my husband ended up getting fired from his job, and it was the first time he'd ever been fired ever in life. And so, like, that was like a shock, and we were confused again with that, and I was so discouraged. And I'm like, I was just hopeless. Like, we are not going to, like, I have no idea, Lord. Like, I was depressed. Like, what is going on? Why are we not inside a homestead already? Like, I don't understand. And then at the time too, we had put a down payment on Great Pyrenees, and we were thinking, oh, we're going to close in 2 days, so the dog was ready, we went to pick it up. Then when it fell through and my husband got fired, now we have a Great Pyrenees, and he's like living in the RV with us. And then they're saying, okay, in order for you to get a new job, it used to be like you only needed 1 check, 1 pay stub, which would be 2 weeks, but then now it's saying it needed to be 6 months. And so I'm like, I now have to live in the RV even 6 more months, and then now we have a Great Pyrenees. And if you're not familiar with Great Pyrenees, livestock guardian dogs, they're huge. And so we ended up staying in our RV for 8 months with our livestock guardian dog, probably even longer, probably 10 months, I don't know. Like, he was big, and so he quickly became just a protector of us, mostly my son, because my son trained him. He slept with, next to my son's bed in the RV. And then now that we moved to this other property, he sleeps in my son's room. During the day, we keep him out at night, but he's basically my son's like puppy or dog now, because he's like 2. But yeah, it was crazy to get here. So finally, when this listing came, because we would make offers and get outbidded, and it was just a mess. I thought we weren't going to get a homestead. And so when I found this property, I think I'm the first one that I saw it, and then I showed it to my husband, but it had been on the market like 1 day, and we weren't going to be able to see it for like the 3 days. And I was just like, we're not going to get it, because other properties that we would see the first day and then couldn't see it that day or something, or even if we could see it that day, we would get, like, it was just getting snatched off the market so fast. And so I was just like, when I saw this, I was like, nope. I was like, it has acres with it, we are not going to get this. And so, like, I just was not, I was hoping, I wanted to, but I didn't think that we actually would. And come to find out, we actually did get this property and we have been here. But I just, you know, want to encourage anyone who is listening and wants to homestead. And maybe I'm not even a morning person, so I just want to encourage you that you can do it anyway. Like, it doesn't have to be the stereotypes of that it has to be done a certain way, or that you can't be afraid and be a gardener. I remember someone asking me about like snakes. I'm terribly afraid of snakes. Like I said, I'm afraid of all the creepy little animals, or all the animals that probably any animal that you can name. I'm probably like I'm afraid of. Like it makes me a little nervous. And so I remember someone asking about snakes, and it's like, but I want to garden. And I'm like, I'm probably more afraid of snakes than you are, and I garden. Because it's like, just because you're afraid of something, or something makes you nervous, it's like, which one are you going to be more afraid of? Like, if you have a passion to garden and you have a passion to do something, it's like, do it afraid. And so I just want to encourage anyone who's watching, or or have the thought that, oh, I can't do it because I'm afraid. It's just like, no, if you want to, like, which one is going to outweigh one? It's like, I want to homestead, but I'm scared of all of, I think goats' eyes are creepy. I think, rabbits are with red eyes are like demons. I think that, I've never held a baby chicken and they're like moving all over the place and they have claws. And I think, chickens running after you look like little dinosaurs. And, I think the goats with the little side eyes look, crazy. And it's just all of these things that I think of when I'm homesteading. I'm scared of roosters because I remember going to Alabama in the summer to visit family with my grandmother, and one time they locked me in a chicken coop, and I don't even know if they had roosters or not, but those chickens were crazy. Like, they were like flapping at me, trying to attack me. It was a small little coop, and I was deathly afraid. So like most of my drama and why I'm scared of most animals is because of childhood fears that came into my adulthood. But I want to do this, and so I had to overcome all of those things. And it doesn't mean that I'm not nervous, or you guys see me when I'm like jumping at certain things, or saying something's creepy and stuff like that, but I'm doing it because this is my dream. Like, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I prayed for. This is what I asked the Lord for. I wanted to homestead. I wanted to, be able to garden. I wanted to have this big, beautiful garden that I have, and see things growing, and, be able to feed my family organic. I wanted to be able to teach people how to garden. I wanted to share this experience with people, and the Lord blessed me with it, and I'm so grateful that He did. But it doesn't mean that you can't be afraid, or that you can't be nervous, or like I had to train myself, like, to wake up earlier during the day. I had to, I asked my children for help. Like, we all chip in here. My kids have chores. Like, I have Anaya. She just started selling chicken eggs because she feeds the chicken and she collects the eggs. And then, now my other children are thinking of like, okay, well, what can they do with their animals that they take care of? And it's just like all about like taking responsibility. Sometimes, when it's I expect a certain amount from my kids, but then sometimes when it's just going above and beyond, I'm like, hey, like, I'll offer you this amount of money to help me do what, X, Y, and Z. But it's not all the time. I'm not saying I'm going to pay you to, clean your room, or, or something that, I just expect them to do if they messed up something. And so, I don't know, I just wanted to put this in one video because a lot of people ask about my story, and I've mentioned it here and there, and but I want it to be all in one video, and I want to encourage you guys that, you can do it if you want to. You can do it even though you're afraid. You can do it even though you're nervous. I remember getting goats, and I remember I'm scared. I'm nervous. I don't know how to milk them. I don't know, like, I don't want them to die. Like, I'm like, now it's like, you have to take care of these big animals. It's not like a little tiny baby, hamster or whatever. And so I remember thinking that, and I'm not saying that if you jump into this that it's going to be all rose colored and you're not going to lose any animals or anything like that, because that would be a lie. But I'm just saying that if you have a passion to do something, then you can definitely do it. Keep praying, keep believing, keep resting on the Lord's promise that he has a plan for you, and if that plan, and he wants to bless you. And I do think that he wants people to live a healthy life that is going to bring glory to his name. I do think that homesteading, it's Romans 8:28 says that everything that happens is for our good and his glory. And so I do believe that in that period of us not having a homestead, and me feeling down, and like where is this thing that you promised me, Lord? It really taught me that I was impatient. Like, I was impatient. I wanted what I wanted when I wanted, and it's just like, but do you want that more than God? Do you love that? Like, are you coveting that thing? And so, yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot being here. I've learned that things die, that I need help, that I'm not perfect, that it's just a daily reminder when I wake up and we make a mistake, that it's just like, Lord, I need you, and I can't do this without you. And that it's also a blessing, though. It's a blessing every time I come out here and I see the gifts that he's given me, and that knowing how I wanted this so bad, and now I have it, and I want to do right by it. And so if you guys have any more questions, I was trying to think if there was anything else I can say about our journey getting here, but I think that's pretty much it. If I left anything out, I'm sorry. But if you have any more questions related to our journey here or anything like that, then definitely leave the comments down below. And just know that you can do it. You can do hard things. You can do things even when you're afraid. You can do things even when they are scary. You can do things even if you're not a morning person. I know I said this in an earlier video, when I was taking care of chickens, or no, when I was milking goats, and when we first got goats and we were used to waking up that early, it's like we wouldn't milk until like the evening. Because just like the extra, because waking up that early in the morning we weren't used to it. I'm a night person. When I always worked overnight. My kids, my son specifically, he was raised in that era when I was like really staying up late. My husband always worked really, really late, and so we're just like a up late family and a sleep in family. My kids if they went to bed at 9 o'clock, they wouldn't wake up until 9 a.m. If they went to bed at 10 p.m., they wouldn't wake up till 10 a.m. Like, they would sleep for the longest amount of time. And so we're not morning persons now. We had to adjust and wake up before we have to do school and stuff like that. And so we're definitely adjusting, but we still aren't waking up super duper early. I remember last year I struggled in the garden, which hopefully this year I can do better, because like I said, I'm not a morning person, and it gets so hot here. I'm not ready to go, even if I'm awake, I'm not ready to go out into the garden until about 9-10 a.m. and really probably 10, and by that time it would be deathly hot outside, and I would regret it every single time. Like, why can't I just get out here earlier, like when I know it's going to be deathly hot out here, and like, why can't I do it? And so hopefully this year, I'm telling myself I'm going to do better. I am going to get out to the garden before it's deathly hot. And yeah, I feel like I get the most energy when it's probably about 10, 11, noon. Like, that's when I get my pep. That's when I'm like, yay, let's go do all the things. And those things need to be done before that time. So anyway, this is probably about my third sign off, but thank you guys if you made it to the end of the video. I hope that this brought encouraged you, brought some clarity to our situation. If anything else, that it was just enjoyable for you to listen to and hear, me, and kind of get to know me a little better. And I guess I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.